Hi everyone, and welcome to the talk about visualizing geospatial data with Apache Superset. As Astrid already mentioned, my name is Suleiman. I'm a full-stack developer at Terrestris. We are an open-source WebGIS company located in Bonn in Germany. And I am also the developer of the Superset cartodiagram plugin, which I will present during this talk. Besides that, I'm also co-contributor of the GeoStyler project, which you might have heard of, and there was a talk about 2 hours ago. Let's dive into the topic. What are we going to talk about today? We will talk about Apache Superset. So if you don't know the software yet, I will just give you a brief introduction about what is this software about, what you can do with it. And then we will dive into the geospatial topic and talk about the cartodiagram plugin, the current state of it, what it can do, its feature set. There will also be a short demonstration of this plugin, and at the end I will present to you what are the plans for the future and the next steps regarding this plugin and the Superset software itself. So what is Apache Superset? Just to give you a few buzzwords, Apache Superset is a data exploration and visualization platform. It is a no-code platform, and what that basically means, besides all these buzzwords, is that you can arrange your data, or you can visualize your data and arrange different panels on a so-called dashboard, like you can see here on the left on the slide. And so you can arrange different visualizations of a certain topic on a dashboard, and then give your audience, for example the public, or if you have a certain user audience, you can give them information about a certain topic. You probably know, for example, the COVID dashboards, which were quite common in the last years, where you could see the number of incidents and all the other information about COVID. During that time, to me it felt like this topic of dashboards became more and more important. And Superset, or Apache Superset, is one software, open source software, that provides this functionality. No-code platform means that you don't have to be a programmer to use this platform. The main concept is that you have a database, your own database. It does not need to be integrated into Apache Superset. You can connect to this database. Let's say you have a Postgres database that contains some tables you want to visualize, and then you have a graphical user interface to actually click together the different visualizations. So you don't have to code or program anything yourself. Superset provides you with all the features and configuration options that you can do this with a graphical user interface. It might be better to say that it is a low-code platform in my eyes, because you're still able to, for example, write your own SQL statements to subdefine your queries, and not just display the table as a whole, but also to give more or just really precise information on what you want to display. To talk a little about some technical details, Apache Superset, as you can get from the name, is part of the Apache Software Foundation, and thereby it is also licensed with the Apache 2.0 license. It has a very, very active community, which is really great. So right now there have been more than 1,000 contributors on the project. It has more than 50,000 stars on GitHub. If you want to take this as a measurement, this is pretty big. There's also a Slack channel that contains of more than 6,000 people, so it is a very, very active community. Also, because it is not just geospatial, it provides the utility or this dashboard functionality for many different fields that gets outside of just the geo domain. And one nice thing about Apache Superset is that it has a plugin architecture, so you can create your own plugins, and these plugins can then be used for your own custom visualizations. And Apache Superset itself, the backend is written with Python. It's a Flask backend, so quite a lightweight web framework written in Python. And in the front end, it uses React. So this is something, for example, in our company we also use quite intensively, so this was for us a very good fit. So what is the Cartodiagram plugin? What is the motivation behind of that? Apache Superset itself already provides some functionality for geospatial data, but we had a customer that needed a certain set of functionality that was still lacking. We had the decision to use or to extend Superset instead of writing our own software because our customer had certain needs. These needs were the customer needed to be able to visualize location-based data, but besides that, also to visualize other kinds of data. And also, one requirement was that the data, or if the data in the background gets some updates, the visualizations themselves should also update automatically. And also, they want to use these dashboards for giving information or provide information to the public. Since Apache Superset already provides this functionality, it was kind of a no-brainer to use this piece of software and just extend it to the actual geospatial visualizations that are needed by our customer. So what does the Cartodiagram plugin do? Well, it creates cartodiagrams. It's one kind of thematic maps where you, simply speaking, you put charts on a map. That's like the simplest way of explaining what it actually does. So you can create your own panel within a dashboard that visualizes or can visualize any other type of visualization that is already provided by Apache Superset. So you can use pie charts, you can use bar charts, you can use any other kind that is provided by Superset. And that is pretty nice because the visualizations that are provided by Superset are really, really polished. So if you want to look for a high-value user interface that is really usable, Superset is really a great fit for you. And so we did not want to redo this all on our own. So we said, okay, let's make use of the existing plugins. That's why we say the Cartodiagram plugin is some kind of a meta plugin. What this exactly means, I will explain in a few minutes. The basic feature set of the Cartodiagram plugin is that you, as I said, you can use all the existing visualization or charting types that Superset already provides. You can configure background layers, WFS, WMS, and XYZ layers. You can change the size of the charts depending on the scale. And also you can use some basic configuration of the extent where you want to place the map and what do you actually want to show by default. Of course, all these plugins that you can see are interactive. Some technical details again. For the Cartodiagram plugin, we made use of Apache Superset, that is quite clear, which is part of the Apache Foundation. But we integrated OpenLayers as the map library, and we also integrated GeoStyler for styling the background layers. So that is pretty nice because it's kind of a nice collaboration between the Apache Software Foundation as one of the very big open source software foundations, and also the OSGeo Foundation, which is like the biggest foundation in the geospatial domain. So they're moving these two foundations with kind of the same ideology and behind together is really, really a nice thing. So let's start with a demonstration. This is what the dashboard looks like so far. I added a data set in the background that provides information about the electricity capacity for the European states. And right now you can see here a base bar chart. And this bar chart has been used to visualize the bar charts here on the map that you can see here. So what we do now is we will create a new chart and show how you can actually create such a visualization. So you click on a chart or adding a new chart and you just select the data set. There I chose the data set that I created or added to Superset, which is like the electrical capacity, and I select which kind of chart I want to use. At first, the concept is that I create a usual or an already existing chart like in this case a pie chart, and afterwards I will create the cartodiagram. So I create that chart. I get an overview about different options. So I want to group this information by name. And the metric, the thing I actually want to show is the sum of the value column of my data set. And then I create a chart, and it gives me an overview how this chart looks like. And now I can see which country has like the different electrical capacities. I can customize this chart. I don't want to show the legend because for my use case it's a little disturbing, and I don't want to show the labels, so I have it a little cleaner. And then I can already save the chart and give it a name. Maybe something like this. I can save it and I can go to the dashboard. Now I can see that I created this chart here. Now I want to create another chart, which is actually the cartodiagram plugin. So I create a new chart. Choose the same data set. That is the requirement. So I have to choose the same data set that I am using for the other chart or the reference chart itself. And then I will select the plugin itself. Here it's important to mention the demonstration I'm showing right now is not the latest state of the plugin. So here it was still called OpenLayers plugin. We renamed it to cartodiagram plugin. So in a future version this looks a little different, but the steps themselves are the same. So I create that chart, and now all I have to do is to select that existing chart from this drop down here. This drop down only shows charts that are based on the same data set. So I can use this one, and all I have to do is to specify the geometry column. In this case, we only support point GeoJSON geometries. In the future, we will probably extend this. There's no technical reason not to do it. It's just a matter of time and having a first step, or doing the first steps. So we create that chart, and then you can see very simple pie charts because probably I created the wrong chart before. So I will go back to the other charts and edit this one, because I guess I got the wrong dimension, because I don't want the name. I want to have the type of electrical capacity, so I can update this chart. And I see which type of electrical power is used. I save it and overwrite this chart. Then again, I create a new chart as I did before. So I use the OpenLayers plugin, reference the new chart, and specify the geometry column just as I did before. And that looks way better. So now we have already our chart, and we can see we have the pre-configured pie chart on our map. And now the information is already grouped by, in this case, by state. And now we can customize this information or this visualization. So here in this customize panel, you can adjust how things should look like. For example, I can add a new background layer. And for that, I have to copy the URL. 1 second. It's a WFS. I'm using map server just for serving the WFS right now. And it is in version 1.1.0. Then I have to specify the layer name. In our case, it's this one, and I also use it for the title, which is freely configurable. And of course, I want to set the attribution so I know where this data source comes from. Here we go. Then I can edit the style. And what you see here, this is GeoStyler. We just integrated it into Superset. So we have a default rule here, and we want to adjust it a little. So we just have the outline stroke, and we change it to some red color. and think a smaller width. Just give me 1 second. Width of 2, opacity of 0.3, and we save it. And now you can see we have the red outlines here of the different countries. So here you can add as many base layers as you like, just to give more context to your visualization. Also, you can specify the background color of the charts. So on pie charts, it does not really make sense, but if you have bar charts that have a transparent background, you want to have something to change so you can distinguish the map and the chart. So here you can just, for example, change the opacity. I will just make it completely transparent. And I can also change the size of the chart. So right now it's a little too big for my taste, so I can increase or decrease the size of the charts. Now you can see the charts are smaller, and right now I have it set to a fixed size. So if I change the zoom level, the size will not change, but I want to have it exponentially increasing when I zoom in, so I can get more information when I zoom in. So you can see it down here. You can specify the size for every single zoom level, and now if I zoom in, the chart's size will increase. So if I want to, I can get more information just for a single chart. Now I want to save this chart. And add it also to my dashboard. And now you can see the chart here, so I can edit the dashboard, remove this row, add this chart somewhere here to the left, make it a little smaller, and resize this chart over here. Then I can save it, and if I refresh the page, right now I have to wait a little because it's running on my local setup, which is sometimes not the fastest. But now you can see I have an additional map here. I can zoom in, it's an interactive map, it's quite fluid. I have all the tooltip functionality that is provided automatically by Superset, and this is then how I can create such a chart and to extend my dashboard with this cartogram functionality. Coming back to the presentation, the basic concept of this is as follows. So usually when all the other plugins that are not these meta plugins work as follows. They have a base configuration where you can define how you want to request the data. This is what I did, defining the dimensions and the metric, so that there in the back end will be custom SQL statements created for retrieving the data. So this will be, for example, in the pie chart plugin. Then you can retrieve this data or request this data. This data will then be transformed through a transformation function, and it creates a UI configuration. This UI configuration will be specific for every single chart because it has like these specificities of a pie chart is different than a bar chart, for example. And this UI element will then be used in the visualization. So for example, in the dashboard, but also in this Explore view where I created that chart. With the cartogram plugin, things work a little differently. I still have my base configuration, but I request the information and the configurations from the plugins I am referencing. So when I selected I want to use that pie chart on my map, I request that information and use this configuration and just inject the geospatial information. So for example, selecting the geometry column, I inject this into the configuration, so it will also be grouped by location. Also afterwards request the transformation function of the other visualization or the other plugin, get my own configuration then, put it into the cartogram UI, which makes use of a superset functionality that is able to render all these different parts, and this will then be put into the visualization part. What are the current limitations? We have just APSG 4326 right now and the GeoJSON points, as I mentioned before. Just for now, there's no technical reason. And we are going to do something more. We want to improve the performance because you can have many, many data points. And so rendering can be improved. For example, you just want to render those charts that are actually currently in the view. This is something for the future because right now we want just to make the basic steps. We want to support additional geometries. We want to do some polishing, UI polishing, and some future features, let's say it like this. And probably the most important thing is to actually create the pull request. So this comes back to upstream. We are in contact with the Superset developers. They are really eager into having this functionality. It's a super open community, and so yeah, this is the first step to actually have this base functionality, and which we want to extend it afterwards. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are interested in Superset and have a lot of fun on the FOSS4G.